Good morning. We're just going to give a moment to clear the waiting room. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Give just another moment to make sure folks are cleared from the waiting room and everyone has connected to audio.
Yes.
Thank you. And once again, as a reminder, please remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the city of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I am chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today I am joined by Commissioner Kiana Saxon and Commissioner Liam Curran.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee and who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident. Begin with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, the Boston Leco Corp., doing business as Legacy Boston, located at 71 to 79 Warrenton Street. Date of the incident, August 7th, 2022. Patron on staff assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Charles Del Piero.
Stephen Barboza.
Where's George Kalivas?
George Kalivas.
Yes, I'll move his phone.
Great. Thank you very much. And Mr. Kalivas, if you plan to testify, could you please turn your camera on so we can swear you in? In the meantime, I will ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department.
Officer Christopher Rooney.
Sergeant Daniel McIsaac.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? You all please raise your right hand.
Stephen, raise your right hand.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Officer Rooney,
I
will you
do.
be reading the police report into the record?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you. You may proceed.
About 1:42 a.m. on Sunday, August 7th, 2022, Officer Rooney and Entwistle in the Alpha 103 Alpha responded to a fight at the Royale Club located at 279 Tremont Street, downtown. Operations advised that a manager was struck in the face by a female after security tried to remove her boyfriend. Officers arrived on scene to assist, including the 101 Alpha, Officer Shannon Drew, and Sergeant McIsaac, the Alpha 914. Upon arrival, there was a crowd of 5 or 6 screaming at security personnel outside of the club. The bouncers were waving at police to quickly come over and intervene. Officers exited the cruiser and ordered several males to back away from staff. Officers then began investigating the incident. Officers spoke with the victim, Stephen Barboza, who was a bouncer at the club. Barboza stated that a Brazilian female and her boyfriend were spilling drinks inside of the club and appeared heavily intoxicated. Barboza stated he was alerted that the two needed to be removed from the club. Barboza stated that he ordered the female, Julia de Alcantara Lareo, and her boyfriend to leave the club. Barboza stated the couple refused and a loud argument ensued. Barboza explained at this point he went to physically remove the female from the club. When he did so, Barboza stated he was punched in the face by the female. Barbosa stated he then dragged the female out of the club and her boyfriend, Brian DeBarros, and his friends all jumped in. Barbosa stated he was attacked by the group and punched in the face. Officer Rooney observed some redness and swelling on Barbosa's forehead above his left eye. Barbosa declined EMS and stated he was not injured. Simultaneously, Officer Entwistle was speaking with the female victim, Julia de Alcantara Lareo. Officers observed that de Alcantara Lareo was hysterically crying and screaming about the incident. She stated she was asked to leave the club and was attacked by security. Lareo stated she never attacked the bouncers and that she was the one who was punched in the face. Officers did not observe any injuries on Lareo and she declined EMS. Another injured male was on scene from the incident. Officer Rooney spoke with João Guerra Correa, who was pointed out by Barbosa as one of his attackers. Barbosa stated that after he was punched, he fell during the scuffle onto Correa. Correa stated that Julia was punched in the face and he hurt his leg after a scuffle with the bouncers. Officers observed Correa's left ankle to be visibly swollen and he was unsteady on his feet. Boston EMS was dispatched to the scene for Correa. Moments later, they arrived to treat him. Per EMS, they advised that there was appeared to be an ankle sprain, and he declined to be transported and was advised to ice his foot. There were no other injured parties on scene, and Boston EMS did not transport any victims from the incident. Brian DeBarros was the boyfriend of de Alcantara Lareo and was allegedly to have attacked Barbosa and other staff when he and his girlfriend were asked to leave the club. Barbosa also pointed out another suspect, a João de Vasconcelos, and stated he jumped in when he was tasked with removing the couple. Barbosa explained he was pushed, grabbed at, and punched by all parties. None of the assaults occurred in the officer's presence. After EMS cleared the scene, officers ordered all patrons to leave the club and clear the area. The Alpha 914 Sergeant McIsaac completed a Code 35 license premise violation number 026613. And after that was completed, officers returned to service after the club was closed.
Thank you, officer. Mr. Del Pidio, Mr. Barbosa, Mr. Calivas, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Okay. You hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barbosa is here, and I would like to just read some things, and then he'll be more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have. First of all, the female was never touched by Mr. Barbosa, never. We have a picture of Mr. Barbosa's eye that he was punched, and he was not punched by her, as it states in the report. He was punched by the husband's friend. So basically, he never physically interacted with the female. Mr. Barbosa never dragged the female out of the club. Mr. Barbosa and another door staff brought the husband upstairs. They walked him upstairs. The female was never touched again or was hit. And so basically what they're saying is that the girl was punched in the face, which is not true. She was never dragged out of the club. That's not true. And basically Mr. Barbosa, it was the one that was attacked, and that was it. So Mr. Barbosa's here, and if you have any questions for him, please ask.
Thank you.
Chairman Joyce. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Barbosa, are you here?
He is here. He's on mute.
Oh, I
just
see him.
on mute, Mr. Barbosa.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, and you've been sworn in.
So what do you
You-
do?
You have anything else you'd like to,
Yes.
anything else you'd like to add?
I just wanted to say that I've been working for Mr. DePidio for over 9 years. My day job, I work for a life science company, Millipore Sigma. I've been there 5 years. I'm a bioanalyst during the day. Mr. DePidio was very adamant with us about the way we treat our customers. And we usually have a meeting once every other week about how we should treat patrons of the club. We don't like to have anyone exit the premises because we don't want a reputation of if people are acting up or if people are being belligerent, we throw them out right away. We try to resolve the problem inside the club so everyone can stay and have a good time. But as far as me grabbing her, I never had any physical, or I never spoke with the female. She tried to hit me, but she didn't hit me. She swung and she missed because she was trying to reach me over her husband. And I think her husband was more embarrassed that we had to escort him out because they had a couple of friends with them who had a VIP table. So he was trying to go back in while his wife was arguing with another patron. And I took him by the arm and I said, you have to exit the premises because you and your wife are spilling drinks on customers. He got upset, started shoving me. I took him by the arm and told him if he can exit the premises. And as I'm taking him by the arm, that's when his other friend came in and he punched me in the face. And once he punched me in the face, we started scuffling. And then that's when we fell and I fell on top of him. Then I got a radio call that police officers are on scene.
Okay.
So we escorted the husband's friend outside. And once we escorted them outside, the police was already on scene. And that's when the police seen my eye and I showed the police who the two assaultants were.
That's what they want to see you around.
Do you guys want to see a picture of my eye?
You can send it to the board. It'd be easier for us to have that on file, but I have a couple of questions based on the written police report that has been submitted in conjunction with this incident. The police report states that when he did so, Barboza stated he was punched in the face by the female. Barboza stated he then dragged the female out of the club. Did you not say that?
No,
To the
I
police?
didn't. I
So
didn't speak to the female at all, and I did not touch the female. It was her husband I was dealing with until
So
his
do you have
friend
any
got
idea
involved.
why the police report says that you did?
I have no idea. Maybe I could have said she was taken out the club, and that's about it. But I didn't have any interaction with the female at all.
Okay. Is Officer who wrote this report? Is Officer Rooney or? Are they
Yep,
here?
absolutely.
Were you the one that interviewed Mr. Barboza?
Yes, I did.
And did he say he dragged the female out of the club?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, Mr. Barboza was the victim here. He was attacked, and then when it got physical, he was escorting the patrons who assaulted him out of the club when they refused to leave. That's the message that I was trying to convey.
Okay.
Verbally, he tried to get them to leave. They refused, and then he was attacked and had to physically remove them.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
I don't believe I have anything further. No, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Do we just have a record of how much the couple had to drink and how long they were there before this incident?
Chuck, do you have that information?
I don't, but this was at the end of the night. So we're talking about probably 1:30. So they probably were there a few hours without a doubt.
Okay. Did you have cameras this night?
Our cameras are in, and I believe we sent over to you all the locations of every camera.
But did you have them on any cameras on August 7th?
No.
Okay.
But since our last meeting, I've had all the cameras done.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Danny.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you. Calling item number 2, BDGA LLC located at 69 Canal Street. Date of the incident, October 1st, 2022. Staff on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney William Ferrolo on behalf of the licensee. With me this morning is Jason DiBenedetto, who's the manager on duty, and David Davidian, who's the security, door security.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Good morning, this is Dr. Drew with the Boston Police Department.
Sergeant Daniel McIsaac, Boston Police.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Good morning. This is Rafael Cabral. I was the patron who was assaulted.
Thank you, Mr. Cabral. And sorry, I heard one other participant.
Detective Bartkevich with the Boston Police Department Civil Rights Unit.
Thank you very much. Can all those who plan to testify please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. And who will be reading the police report into the record?
I will. Officer Drew.
Great, thank you. You may proceed.
About 11:59 p.m. on Saturday, October 2nd, 2022, Officer Drew and Officer signed as the Alpha 1 on a radio call for 7 Canal Street, Boston. Also responding was Alpha 914. Officers were met out front now by Jason, manager of the establishment.
Officer, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your audio keeps coming in and out. I don't know if it might, maybe turning your camera off might help. I'm not sure, but we're losing it. A few words.
Let me move down my hall a little bit. Maybe that will help. Is this any better?
So far.
Okay. So upon arrival, officers were met out front of Bodega Canal by Jason DiBenedetto, manager of the establishment. Mr. DiBenedetto stated that he was made aware of an incident involving a patron of the establishment and a security staff member who he had already moved to a different location within the nightclub to prevent further issues. He then pointed out the patron, identified as Rafael Cabral, who was standing by the doorway and had visible lacerations to his nose and left cheek. Officers first spoke to Mr. Cabral, who stated that he couldn't fully recall what had happened and that he was drinking that evening. He stated that he was thrown to the ground by a staff member who he had a picture of on his phone, and he was kicked in the balls. He also stated that his phone was taken by staff. However, a good Samaritan in the area did locate his phone down the street and returned it to him. Mr. Cabral was evaluated by Boston EMS A01, D'Amico, and Wickham. Officers then spoke with the security staff member, David Davidian. Mr. Davidian stated that Mr. Cabral was inside the establishment and began to cause issues, prompting him to be escorted from the property. After he was removed, he stood in front of the door and attempted to get back into the establishment for approximately 15 minutes. He then started to film Mr. Davidian and use racial profanity about his appearance and his Muslim heritage. Mr. Davidian stated that Mr. Cabral continued to get in his face, and at one point he stated he was going to leave and get a gun. Mr. Davidian said that after making that statement about a firearm, he struck Mr. Cabral in his face. Sergeant McIsaac responded to perform a license premise check. License premise violation 26615 was issued and signed for by Mr. DiBenedetto.
Thank you, Officer Drew. We have a supplemental as well. Will that be read by Sergeant McIsaac?
I don't have the supplemental. I wasn't aware if there was one. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Who?
Detective Bartkevich, I can read that. If it's the supplemental that I believe that you're talking about, the first part of the supplemental was identical to what Officer Drew just read. The second part of it, I can read for you. Detective Bartkevich, the Boston Police Civil Rights Unit, states the following. Based on the facts documented in the original police report and subsequent investigation of the incident, it appears that the threats made by Mr. Cabral were more likely than not motivated in part by anti-Muslim bias. The incident, which was a threat, will be classified as a CRU incident, but Mr. Davidian did not want to go forward with the prosecution at this time. Therefore, the incident was inactivated for CRU purposes.
Thank you very much. Attorney Ferrullo, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, I would. First, just a quick question of the officers. Was the staff cooperative with you that evening as far as providing information and then subsequently providing you a video?
They were cooperative with providing all information. I don't believe I saw any video that evening. I can't speak for my partner, though.
Thank you.
As far as the investigation on my end, they did provide video.
Thank you, sir. On this evening, the gentleman in question, the patron, was asked to leave because he was being difficult with the staff inside the restaurant. After being asked several times to leave, he was escorted from the premises, went outside, and while he was outside, continued to try to enter where David Davidian, the door person, blocked his entrance. That went on, stated in the report, for at least 10 minutes, during which time he held his phone within an inch or two of Mr. Davidian's face, swearing at him, calling him all sorts of names. Towards the end of this, he asked Mr. Davidian if he was in fact Arabic or Muslim, and stated that he was, at which point he started using anti-Muslim, anti-Arabic slurs as well. Mr. Davidian informed him that he would be calling the police and that he should leave the area, at which time the individual backed up, turned to Mr. Davidian and said, "I'm going back to my car and get a gun," and made the indication with his hand, making his hand appear to be a gun as if he was going to shoot Mr. Davidian. At this point, Mr. Davidian made the decision that he would not let him go back to his car. He went over to him to hold him to call the police, at which time they struggled and fell to the ground. Mr. Davidian called management to call the Boston Police Department and remained with this individual outside until the police department came. The incident took place, as mentioned, after about 15 minutes of this harangue by Mr. Cabral. And as stated, we provided the video of the incident to the Boston Police Department.
Thank you. Anything further, Attorney Ferrillo?
We have both Mr. Benedetto on, and we have Mr. Davidian, who's on telephone with him.
Great. Thank you. Chairman Joyce, would you like to ask any questions of the licensee, or would you like to hear from the victim first?
Why don't we let the victim testify? Then we can ask questions.
Thank you. Mr. Cabral, is there anything further you would like to add for the board's consideration this morning?
Yes, thank you. I guess I would like to offer my recollection of the events as I basically have several issues with essentially most of what Mr. Ferrillo mentioned of his recollection. I actually took video of the entire thing, but I guess I'll start from the beginning. So I was actually headed to Bodega Canal with my girlfriend to meet up with a couple of friends who were already there. So we got there at around 8:45 p.m. My friends were already there at the bar. They'd saved a couple of seats for us. We went inside and had drinks. We were there for probably about 2.5 hours. At that point, one of the bouncers on the inside, not Mr. Davidian, came to me seemingly out of the blue and said that I had to leave. I had to pay the cover, which we weren't told we had to pay. When we first got there, we just, showed our IDs and went inside. So the bartender who was serving us at that point tried to wave off the bouncer, said, "There's no problem." And so the bouncer left. Then he came back, grabbed me, threw me out aggressively. At that point, obviously, given I was confused and obviously upset, I did take out my phone to record essentially whatever was going to happen from that point on. I wasn't trying to get back in. I was waiting for my friends. One of my friends, his name's Adam, came out to try to talk to the bouncer, Mr. Davidian. And I had no interest in going back inside. I was trying to leave or wait for my friends so that we could leave. But my girlfriend and Adam's girlfriend had gone to the bathroom. So we were waiting on them. Apparently the bouncer inside and the bartender started arguing while I was outside. So that's why I was waiting for about 15 minutes. My girlfriend was trying to close out, but the bartender was arguing with the bouncer inside. So essentially I was waiting outside for that entire period of time, at which point I was harassed by Mr. Davidian, but also a number of other patrons who were, swearing at me and calling me names. Again, I have pretty extensive video on my phone of the entire incident when this happened. At one point, one of the patrons, female, reached over and paused my video, at which point Mr. Davidian kicked me, as the officer mentioned, in the balls. That part I didn't catch on video because, again, the female had paused my video. But then I started recording again. And at that point, it's very audible where I say, oh, she, stopped the recording, and mentioned that he kicked me. So from there on, obviously it was pretty contentious. As far as going back and forth, both of us were kind of just having a verbal argument, but I was relatively calm. He was clearly agitated. I would say I was, of course, frustrated from the events, but at no point was aggressive. I didn't actually drive there, so there was no car for me to go back to. I was actually leaving after that 15 minutes to grab an Uber, which I texted my friends that, okay, I'm leaving, see you back at home, something to that effect. And at that point is when, I don't recall it happening because I was apparently snuck up from behind after I already left, then punched, knocked out. And that's when my friend Adam ran out and saw me falling to the ground. He then went over to Mr. Davidian to ask him what happened, which at that point is when Mr. Davidian told him that he had punched me because I was recording him and he felt threatened. So I had, of course, lacerations, bruising. My face was completely swelled up. I had to go to the urgent care the day after and get treatment for about 2 weeks. Been in therapy as well. So it's been a pretty difficult ordeal, but yeah, happy to answer any questions. As far as the racial epithets or name calling, again, I have pretty extensive video on my phone that goes against that pretty explicitly. We didn't exchange some dialogue, but essentially it was, I had mentioned something to him in Arabic, Habibi, which means I love you, man. And at that point, he asked me why I said that. And at which point I said, oh, I'm Muslim, are you? And then he said, yeah. And then he said afterwards, oh, you're not Muslim, you can't be, something like that. So again, I'd be happy to answer more questions about that whole exchange, but that's my recollection of the events that I took notes of afterwards. And again, have, been recalling it, unfortunately, through therapy as well, but I guess I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Cabral. I will turn it over to the board for any questions for any of the parties who have testified, beginning with Chairman Joyce. Any questions?
Just a question for the victim. You said you were waiting for your friend to come out, but he was inside until he saw you fall.
Yeah, he actually came out a few times. At one point, he had mentioned, or he was trying to speak with Mr. Davidian to let me back in, which I didn't have any intention of doing, but he came out a few times. It was only when I had left though that he had come out and saw me. From what he told me, he saw me fall into the ground, or the kind of back end of being
Okay,
punched. And
so when you left, were you waiting for your girlfriend and your friend's girlfriend to come out, or were they all having no intentions of leaving with you at that time?
I didn't know. So that's part of what my frustration was as well. But they were inside. My girlfriend told me afterwards that she was trying to close out, but because the bartender who was serving us was arguing with the bouncer inside, she wasn't able to close out. So I was just waiting for them to leave. And eventually I got, sick of, waiting and sick of arguing. And so I texted them that, okay, guys, I'm leaving, I'll see you.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
For the victim or for anyone?
For anyone?
Well, first of all, I'd like to have Mr. Cabral send us his video. If that's possible.
Sure. So it's on my phone. I'm not sure. I think I've had issues sending videos in the past. Is there any way that's easiest?
Through any format that you can send them into licensingboard@boston.gov. We'll make sure that they are shared with the commissioners and also with the licensees, so they have a chance to see them as well.
Sure.
Okay, and then my next question would be for the premises. I see that you've already sent us a few video clips from the outside. Do you have any video from inside as well on that evening?
Jason, can you respond to that, please?
Yeah, we do. We do have video footage inside the premise as well, but the only footage of the incident was outside. I'm not aware of anything inside happening as far as the patron has described. The only incident I was made aware of was the one outside, and that's the video that I gave to the detective.
Yeah, what I'm concerned, I kind of want maybe a fuller picture of than just what happened outside. And so I'm looking for some of these interactions that happened inside where Mr. Cabral was first approached and asked to leave and how that all went as well. And maybe even this inside security staff and his interactions with the bartender.
Yeah, I'd have those pulled by Digital Sky Services.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that as well.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as the details, I feel like I'm pretty straight on those. So I think that's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Yeah, I mean, is there any record of how much you guys had to drink? Is there any tab or do you?
Yes. Yes, I have so I was charged, or my card was charged, so I have that. I believe that it was split between my card and someone else's, but as I recall, I had probably 5 or 6 drinks, somewhere around there, between like 8:45 to I think it was 11:15 or 11:30. So something like two or three beers, an old fashioned whiskey drink, and then I think potentially a shot as well, and maybe a mixed drink.
And would you characterize yourself as being stable, or do you think that was a lot for you?
I was relatively stable. I was definitely, and it's still, a fair amount of drinks, regardless, but I wasn't, again, when the situation happened, it was kind of out of the blue. To that point, there had been no issues. And neither my friend or I were being belligerent. We were kind of just at the bar for that entire time. Then outside the bar, I was definitely agitated, but relatively lucid. But again, of course, that's a fair amount of drinks regardless. So I wasn't sober, but I wouldn't say that I was belligerent or extremely intoxicated.
Thank you. Anything further from the board at this time? Thank you. Board will take this matter under advisement. Attorney Ferrell,
Mr.
yes?
Chairman, before you do, I would just point out one item for the board from
Mhm.
Mr. Cabral's own testimony. You should make note of the fact that, as he says, patrons outside were intervening, not because they were picking on Mr. Cabral, but they were trying to stop him from this abusive language, actions, etc. That's his own testimony, that other people, other patrons intervened between him and Mr. Davidian. I would ask that to be considered.
Thank you, Attorney Ferrell.
Oh, sorry. That's not what I had said. It's a mischaracterization. They were, again, I have video that while I was just recording and standing by, a number of patrons just were yelling at me and swearing, telling me that I was a loser, things like that. So that's all on video.
Thank you, Mr. Cabral. Thank you, Attorney Ferrell. There have been video requests made from both Mr. Cabral and also from the licensed premise. You can submit them to licensingboard@boston.gov. The board will vote on Thursday morning, so the record will remain open until the end of business tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. With that, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 3, Summers Boston Restaurants, Inc., doing business as Hennessy's of Boston, located at 25 Union Street, date of the incident October 2nd, 2022. Patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Thank you. Hang on, I'm just going to ask you to unmute, Ms. Summers. If you could just identify yourself once you are unmuted.
Hi, it's going to be myself and Stuart Abbott, the general manager.
Great, thank you. I don't know that I see Mr. Did you say Abbott?
Yeah. Stuart.
Oh, there we go. Is that?
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
Right.
Perfect. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Simas.
Sergeant Daniel McIsaac.
Thank you. And Officer Simas, if possible, could you please put yourself, please turn your camera on so we can swear you in? Perfect. Thank you very much. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Officer
Yes.
Simas, will you be reading the police report into the record?
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed.
About 1:32 a.m. on 10/2/22, Officer Simas and Avila, assigned to the Alpha 112 Alpha, responded to a radio call for a fight at 25 Union Street, Hennessy's. Upon arrival, officers were met by the victim, Eric Delaney, date of birth 1/1992, who stated while at the above, an unknown white male punched him in the face and fled the above. The unknown suspect fled in a motor vehicle, Mass Reg 3 Echo Whiskey Lima 33 at Kia Soul before leaving the area. The victim refused EMS. The Alpha 912 Sergeant McIsaac responded for a code 35 violation number 26616.
Thank you very much. Ms. Summers, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, I'm going to have Stuart speak to it because he was there that night.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Abbott, you may proceed.
Yeah, it was two groups that were walking down the street on Union Street. Started getting into an altercation with each other. Obviously, then one of the individuals punched one of the other individuals who was part of the other group. He was knocked unconscious, and then we immediately called 911 because we were worried about the individual that had been knocked unconscious.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anything further from the licensee?
Yes, I just wanted to state that the two patrons weren't actually patrons. They were never in Hennessy's. The fight just occurred outside. And we called the police after seeing the victim passed out or knocked out. So they were walking down. It happened to happen.
We were worried about it.
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll turn to the board for any questions. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
I don't think I have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Kern or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
None for me either. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us this morning. The board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Joyce, items 4 and 5 concern the same licensee stemming from the same incident. Would you like to take these two items together or separately?
One second. Let's take them separately.
Okay, we'll start with item number 4, Fuente Cleaning Services, Inc. doing business as Billares Columbia, located at 28 Bennington Street in East Boston. Date of the incident, September 24th and 25th. Assault and battery, owner, employee on a police officer in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A, D, and failure to disperse patrons in a safe and orderly way in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, John P. Connell from Upton, Connell and Devlin on behalf of the licensee. And I believe Mr. Rigoberto Restrepo and Fernie Perenez should be here as well.
Thank you. I don't know that I see either of them on camera if they are planning on testifying. So anyone who is.
I do see Mr. Perenez here. You may recall that this matter generated a criminal complaint in the East Boston District Court. Mr. Perenez has been advised by his criminal counsel not to speak to assert his Fifth Amendment. But he is here. Mr. Restrepo, the manager of record, was not there that night, so he cannot provide firsthand information. However, we are prepared to go forward in any event.
Thank you, Attorney Connell. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Good morning, Officer Michael Doran.
Thank you, Officer Doran. And any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Gallagher will be reading the LPV into record, but no firsthand knowledge.
Thank you. Can you all please, anyone who plans on testifying, please raise your right hand.
Okay, am I able to go Restrepo?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Restrepo. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you, Sergeant Gallagher. You may please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
Actually, my Officer Doran should
Officer
be the
Doran.
person.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right. About 1:02 a.m. on Saturday, September 24th, to Officers Doran and Senzia, well assigned to the Gold 101 Alpha, responded to a radio call for a loud music being played inside of 28 Bennington Street, East Boston. Due to the ongoing noise complaints with Billares Columbia and 7 licensed premise violations, the following officers also arrived on scene. Officer Pels, Bang, Bracho, and Shears. Upon arrival, officers could hear loud music as they approached the outside of Billares Columbia. Officers observed the front door to be shut and no windows to the establishment to be opened. Officers were met with the owner, Fernie Perenez, who was attempting to delay officers from entering the establishment by blocking the front door. Officer Doran informed Perenez of the loud music complaint and then gave Perenez multiple verbal commands to move away from the door before eventually entering the establishment. As Officer Doran entered the establishment with his department issued camera on, he observed very loud music coming from a person at an elevated platform consistent with a DJ. Officer Doran also observed a person in a red dress singing into an amplified microphone. As Officer Doran attempted to make his way through the crowd, the singer and an unknown individual exited the rear door into a courtyard. Officer Doran stepped into the courtyard and observed the unknown male at the bottom of a flight of steps, which led to a storage basement. Before descending the stairs, Officer Doran was again approached by the owner, Perenez, who began questioning why the officers were there. Officer Doran walked around Perenez and began descending the rear flight of steps in an attempt to locate the person that was singing. As Officer Doran approached the bottom of the stairs, he observed the singer, Alex Hernandez, in a storage basement attempting to hide. As Officer Doran was attempting to get information and removed the party from the basement, Fernie Perenes grabbed Officer Doran on the left shoulder in an attempt to place himself between the officer and Alex Hernandez. Officer Pels, standing behind Perenes and Officer Doran, observed Perenes grabbing the officer and placed him in handcuffs. Sergeant Yamokis, the Gold 909, arrived on scene and issued a violation number 026654 for overcrowding of the establishment. Officer Sullivan Venezia counted 64 occupants inside the establishment on a 49-person capacity. The unlicensed live music. Officer Yomokis then spoke with the acting manager, Mary Quintana, who stated that she would voluntarily close the establishment for the night and vacate all the people inside in lieu of the fire department response to the establishment. Perenes was transported to A1, where he was booked and charged with AB, assault and battery on a police officer, and intimidation of a police officer. That's the end of the report.
Thank you, Sergeant Gallagher. And you had an additional to read into the record as well?
Just the LPV that was issued on 9/25/2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, under the direction of Lieutenant Detective Adrian Troy, signed licensed premise unit D to licensed premise inspection notice number 059738, Belarus, Columbia, for assault and battery, owner/employee and police officer, and failure to disperse patrons in a safe and orderly manner. These incidents occurred on 9/24/2022 at 1 a.m. when members of the Boston Police Department assigned to District 87 responded to Belarus, Columbia, 28 Bennington Street, report of loud music emanating into the abutting neighborhood. During the incident, Theo Mike Doran was assaulted by Mr. Alexander Perenes, owner, as he tried to investigate the source of loud music inside Belarus, Columbia. Mr. Perenes was placed under arrest and transported to A7 for booking. While clearing the premise of patrons, BPD officers from A1 had to be called to 20 Bennington Street to assist patrons blocking traffic, harassing officers, and creating a disturbance on Lower Bennington Street, which culminated in another arrest of an individual urinating on a Boston police cruiser. License premise violation will be forwarded to the Boston Licensing Board and mailed to the ownership of Belarus, Columbia. Those are essentially the facts of that evening.
Thank you. And that related police report that's referenced there, we have attached to this as well. Will anybody reading that into the record?
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh, I'll read it. Oh, no.
Thank you. And Officer Shears, have you been sworn in yet?
No,
All right, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
About 1:20 a.m. Saturday, September 24, 2022, Officer Shears in the Gold 425 Alpha respond to a radio call to assist Officer Sullivan, Venezia, and Doran in the Gold 101 Alpha for loud music at 28 Bennington Street, East Boston. Upon arrival, Officer Shears observed Officer Doran had a suspect placed in suspect in custody and placed him in the cruiser. Officer Sullivan, Venezia walked over to the officers and explained what happened inside 28 Bennington Street, Billards, Columbia. Patrol Supervisor Sergeant Mokus and the Gold 909 arrived on scene and conducted a Code 35 license premise check. While Officer Shields was standing in front of 28 Bennington Street, he noticed a large amount of traffic started to back up on Bennington Street. Officer walked over to the front of Bennington Street parking lot and started directing traffic. Officer heard a loud commotion and observed a suspect, later identified as Samuel Montejo Bustamante, standing behind the Boston Police Cruiser 8537 and appeared to be urinating on the cruiser. Officer walked over to the suspect, noticed he was pulling up his pants and he was standing in a puddle of fluid dripping from the police cruiser. Officer asked the suspect what was he doing, and he replied, "Sorry." Officer grabbed the suspect and tried to place him under arrest. A crowd started to surround the officer and while the officer was trying to maintain control of the suspect. Officer radioed for backup and the suspect pulled away from the officer and attempted to flee on foot. The suspect fled a short distance and fell, and he was placed under arrest without further incident. The suspect was transported to District A1, where he was booked and charged with open and gross, Mass General Law 279, Section 16, disorderly conduct, Mass General Law 272, Section 53, and resisting arrest, Mass General Law 268, Section 32B in the report.
Thank you, Officer Shears.
Is that, excuse me, are those other police reports for this item?
Though those are all the police reports for item number
Okay.
4.
Danny, I didn't realize that number 5 was actually referenced in the original police report here. So do you want to read that into the record and we can take it together?
Sure, will do. I'll read into the record item number 5 as well, and we'll take them together per your request. Item number 5, same licensee, Puente Cleaning Services, Inc., also doing business as Polaris Columbia, located at 28 Bennington Street. Clerical error on the date here. It was this same date, same incident, September 25th, 2022. Overcrowding, 64 people counted, capacity 49 in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Boards Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Attorney Cannell, are there same witnesses for item number 5?
Yes, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the Boston Police Department who are going to testify on item number 5?
Sergeant Kevin Young.
Great. Thank you, Sergeant Ilmokas. And are there any other individuals who wish to testify on this item? Sergeant Ilmokas, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please read the police report that is the basis of item number 5 into the record?
So it's the same report that Officer Dorn already read. Do you want me to read it again?
We have another report as well.
The only report I would be.
Oh, no. Hang on, let me check. No, you are correct. It is the same reports. Thank you. That is all. Then, thank you. Attorney Cannell, would you like to address the alleged incident?
I do not have any questions for the officers. Thank you. I would like to say, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Green. This incident was 4 months ago, back in September of last year. You may recall that we had a hearing on the MoCal side for this, essentially the same event. At that time, we presented a copy of the videotape from the licensee inside the establishment that shows when the police officers entered. And I believe you may recall that the videotape shows a very organized, quiet, relaxed atmosphere with nobody standing around, no overcrowding at all. Where the police officers came in, there was nobody on an elevated platform. There was the entertainer who was wrapping up her night. She still had a microphone. Testimony would be that she was saying goodnight to everybody. And the police officers pursued the entertainer out the back door, at which time Mr. Paredes, trying to help the entertainer, allegedly put his hand on the shoulder of the police officer. And that is the gravamen of this complaint. We regret that this misunderstanding with regard to the apprehension or the pursuit of the entertainer happened. We think it was a mistake in communication. We regret that. We requested the body cam footage of the police officers that night that would show from the moment they left the interior of the premise to the back where they confronted the entertainer. We have not been provided that body camera video. We think that would largely help our case, but we haven't been provided that. If there was any dispersal issues, we would say that that was caused by the commotion that arose out of the police pursuing the entertainer. Up until that point in the night, everything was very calm and relaxed. I will say that since September of last year, that the licensee has met quite often with the East Boston Police and the East Boston Police captain and has gone over operations and disbursement issues at the end of the night. And they think they've made great headway with regard to operations and disbursement. There's been no violations or alleged violations from this licensee since this incident back in September. And we don't expect any issues in the future. And I would rely on what we submitted for the videotape the first time around at the MoCal here.
Okay, thank you.
Turn it over to the board to see if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I know I've seen those videos. Danny, can we just make sure they're placed in the file on the alcohol side too?
Well,
Attorney Cannell, so are you disputing that the owner placed his hands on the police officer?
Well, I wasn't there. Mr. Paredes is not the owner. He is the son of the owner.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. My understanding of the East Boston District Court criminal case is that the matter has been continued with supervised or unsupervised self-probation. I believe the only requirement at the end of that matter is that Mr. Prentice say he's sorry or is required to make an apology, which I'll make right here on the record to satisfy that. But I believe the matter is continued out into the future, so we did not want to have Mr. Prentice make any statements that could be used against him in that criminal proceeding.
Okay. All right. And are you disputing that there was an overcrowding issue? That the
Yes.
number was not 64?
Yes, if you watch the video that we provided, there's clearly nobody standing around. It doesn't look like overcrowding. The police officers that came in are not observed to make any count of the people. And the police officers initially walked in, looked around, and went right for the entertainer out the back door, at which time there was a commotion. I think the police report showed that a crowd gathered out front, and there's no evidence to us that we exceeded the 49 number capacity. In fact, we're pretty confident we did not.
Okay. Is there anyone here from Boston Police that did the count that night?
Officer Sullivan Venezia was the one that did the count. He is not present.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes.
so when I arrived on scene, after the initial confrontation where the assault had taken place, that is when I instructed Officer Sullivan to go through the crowd with his body worn camera on and do the count. So the
Okay.
count, with the attorney speaking of how initially maybe the count wasn't done when the officers first got there, that could be 100% correct. But when I arrived on scene, that is when I had Officer Sullivan on body camera walk through the establishment and actually count the people.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran?
Maybe a question for the sergeant. Is there any way to get the camera from the count then?
So, sir, my understanding is for body worn camera, you have to request it through the police department. I assume you guys have done that. I'm not sure how the process it is to get turned over to you guys, but it would be Officer Sullivan's body worn camera, and he is the one who went through at my direction to do the count.
Thank you. That video has been provided to the board. We have that, Commissioner Curran. It should be in the.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it. And I'm not familiar with this video yet, so Attorney Cannell. The video, what perspective is it? How was it taken? I'm sorry.
Well, there are two sets of videos that we are discussing. There's the licensees videos, which
Yeah,
I believe.
The licensee.
I believe it has two angles. One is the police enter the front door. And another angle, I believe, from the back where they sort of come towards the camera and leave through the rear is my recollection of the two angles. We requested the body camera footage, which would show perhaps before the police entered and after our video captured it. But although it's been provided to the board, it has not been provided to us.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take these matters under advisement. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Calling item number 6, BHC Corporation General Partner doing business as Club Cafe located at 209 Columbus Ave, dated the incident September 23rd, 2022. Patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
James Morgridge, General Manager.
Hi, my name is Chris Sterling. I'm one of the security managers at Club Cafe, and I should also note that I am a licensed attorney in Massachusetts, although I am on inactive status at the moment.
Tim Yeager, Security Manager at Club Cafe.
Great. Thank you all. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Mike Sullivan, District D4.
Officer Sweeney.
Detective Chris Besta, District 4.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
Detective Fencer, I'll be reading the report.
Great, thank you. You may please proceed.
Okay, about 12 a.m. on Friday, 9/23/2022, Officer Sweeney and Feeney in the Delta 103 Alpha responded to a radio call for an assault and battery in progress at 209 Columbus Avenue in Boston. Upon arrival, officers were met by the victim, Sophie Upton, outside of Club Cafe, who was visibly upset and stated she was inside the bar when a male from her group, known to her as Joseph Bober, grabbed her by the neck and stated, "You don't know what would happen to a white girl like you in this bar." The victim, Upton, stated she briefly lost consciousness during the incident. Officers offered the victim for Boston EMS to respond to the scene for further evaluation. However, the victim declined EMS services. Code 35043006, conducted by the Delta 912 Sergeant Sullivan. At about 12:15 p.m. on Friday, 9/23/2022, I'm sorry. I'll continue. At
Great,
about
thank you.
12:15 p.m. on Friday, 9/23/2022, Sergeant Sullivan, the Delta 912, responded to a call for an assault in progress at 209 Columbus Ave, the Club Cafe. While on scene, Sergeant Sullivan and the Delta 103, Feeney Sweeney, were notified by the reporting party that a patron-on-patron assault had occurred. Sergeant Sullivan conducted a licensed premise inspection, code 35, at 12:23 a.m. Manager Tim Yeager was present and cooperative with officers. All licenses were conspicuously posted. The licensed premise inspection notice 43006 was issued. That's the end of the report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Morgridge, Mr. Sterling, Mr. Yeager, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Sure, I'll start off. We have video footage that shows the alleged movements throughout the club in the area where she claimed the assault happened. I think that Jim is going to walk that over to you guys later this afternoon for you guys to have. Unless you know where to look on the video, it's kind of hard to figure out where the alleged victim. So in addition to that, screen captures with the victim scrolled in red so you guys can follow through movement, just for reference point and context. There is one part of the video that had some conversion problems. That clip is provided, but it may be hard to view. Tim here, and he can provide some oral testimony as to the contents of that because he has viewed that video. As to the contents of the clips, they do not appear to show any type of assault battery taking place. In addition to that, the crowd we weren't that busy that night. There is no apparent response from anyone in the crowd as if they're acting as something out of the ordinary is happening around them. None of the patrons, bartenders, bussers, DJs, performers, lighting tech, or any other security reported actually seeing anything out of the ordinary, period. Club Cafe has both an in-house security and a private security firm that we contract out. The private firm operated by Felipe Montero, who I'm supposed to be here. I'm not sure if he's here or not. The last clip of the video shows the alleged victim of one of Felipe's employees named Emilio. Not known what conversation took place during that. However, Felipe did not receive any reports from employees about any assault and battery taking place that night, nor did Emilio report anything to Yeager about anything out of happening. Nor did any other patron, busser, DJ, or security see anything out of the ordinary happening. The alleged victim then apparently left the building. Not long afterwards, the police arrived and contacted Tim Yeager. This was the first that we know of that anyone inside of Club Cafe had become aware of this event. I'll turn over to Tim for questions in 1 second, but I just want to close by saying, in terms of doing our due diligence, on Thursdays, we have 7 to 8 security members on staff, 2 of which are in the back where this alleged incident took place. The video clips show security looking over the crowd. In addition to that, we have a floater. We have the DJs that look down. Everyone else that works there looking around. None of them saw any of this. So I'll leave it at that and turn it over to Tim for questions.
Yes, so basically everything that Chris had just mentioned was in my report. I didn't have any firsthand knowledge of the situation until the police came in. So if you have any questions for me with regards to any of the video, I can definitely answer those for you.
Thank you very much. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
My only question is, does anyone know how long this person may have been unconscious in the middle of the bar? I know you're disputing it, but is there any, did anyone, I missed that if it was in the police report or if there was anything written up about that?
As far as consciousness?
Yeah, I know she said she was, in the police report said she lost consciousness.
Right, that's why I'm saying the videos that we provided with, or that we are going to provide with you or for you, have no evidence of anything of that nature at all, because of where she said that the alleged incident happened.
Okay,
there
that's what,
was
I haven't
nothing
seen the
happening
video yet, and then not
that we
folder
could see.
yet, but just was reading what was in the police report, and that just want to get on the record that you guys dispute that.
Detective Fenton, I can say that.
Right.
I actually contacted the victim, Miss Upton, and I also have a video, and I just like the club that there, I from the video that I had seen no evidence of any assault at all.
Okay.
I said that I looked at it from several different angles, and since that, she has not contacted me back.
Thank you very much.
Now, one last thing I'd also just like to point out too is that the police report does not indicate the presence of any marks, bruising, whelps, or anything on her at all.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
For the premises that evening, when were you made aware that something was being alleged at all?
When the police arrived.
So she didn't approach any staff before she was outside, right? And made the call to the police, is that correct?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And we will await video, which will be shared with the board as soon as we receive it. Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Calling item number 7, Park Avenue Group, Inc., doing business as Cabin Cafe, Cabin House, located at 1406 to 1408 Hyde Park Ave in Hyde Park. Dated the incident October 1st, 2022, assault and battery on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Nancy Pisani.
And Albert Pisani.
Thank you very much. Sorry, can you please identify yourself again?
Oh, Carlton Phillip, the victim.
Thank you, Mr. Phillip. And is it possible to turn your camera on so we can swear you in?
Oh, let me see that.
Great, thank you. While you're working on that, I will ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department.
Officer Joe Galvin.
Detective John Harrigan.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
I will, sir. Officer Galvin.
Great, thank you. You may please proceed, officer.
Okay, just after midnight on October 1st, 2022, myself and several other units responded to a radio call for a fight at 1406 Hyde Park Ave, the Cabin Cafe. When we walked in the front door, we found the victim, Mr. Phillip, sitting on a bar stool by the front door. He was holding a towel filled with ice to his right eye. We observed that his right eye was swollen shut. We offered an ambulance, but he refused at that time. He stated he was sitting at the corner of the bar when he was suddenly set upon by several males who began punching him about the face and the head. He said he had no description of them. He had no idea, again, why they had done this to him. He said one of them had stated that he had threatened someone, but he still had no idea what that was all about. We again offered him an ambulance, but he refused and said he just wanted to go home. I ended up giving him a ride to his residence in Roxbury. For Lima 907, Sergeant Edwards responded to the scene and issued a license premise violation 035520. The end of my report.
Thank you. And we have a supplemental as well.
Yes, sir. On Sunday, October 2nd, at approximately 6:30 p.m., Detective Harrington and Lieutenant Detective Leary responded to Brigham and Women's Hospital to interview the victim, Carlton Phillip. Victim Phillip was admitted to the hospital for extensive injuries sustained during the assault. The victim stated that he broken his orbital sockets in both eyes, 2 broken ribs on the left side, and had neck pain and was still currently being evaluated by the doctors for additional injuries. The victim stated he had no memory of the assault and that he did not have any issues with anyone in the bar prior to the assault.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pisani, Mr. Pisani, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Right. So I was the one bartending upstairs when that happened. And that's sort of what I saw is the song just sort of ended. He came over to talk to one of the other patrons in the corner. And then out of nowhere, this other gentleman came up and grabbed him by the throat. Then the person behind him threw a glass of water or drink towards him at me. And then they proceeded to try to drag him downstairs. So I jumped over the bar downstairs to try to take them off of him. When I asked a couple of the people what had happened, they said that he was inappropriately touching them. I couldn't see any of that when I looked in the video. The only thing I could actually sort of see just looking at the videos we provided with y'all is the older gentleman that actually started the fight was sort of instigated by his like younger nephews. There was a group, I don't know who they were, but it was a group celebrating a birthday that day. But I wouldn't say, I didn't ever notice that he was inappropriately touching any women, maybe per se, just dancing with them. From what we could see is it was a new guy having a good time dancing around with a bunch of random people. And it was just, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Pisani. Anything you would like to add?
No, I only know what I watched from the video because I was working on the downstairs bar. So I only know what I saw from the video. And then when I saw my son jump over the bars, when I came around and, tried to break it all up.
Thank you for that. Mr. Phillip, is there anything you would like to add for the board's consideration?
The bartender was 100% correct. I was just there having a good time, first time being in the bar. And I guess I was just having too much of a good time and I got jumped by these guys for no particular reason. Ended up in the hospital for 4 days, broken ribs, eye socket broken. And thank God for my military coverage, I was able to not get a bill, or else I'd be in real financial difficulties right now.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing that with us this morning, Mr. Phillip. Move to the board to see if there are any questions. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Mr. Phillip, were you at the bar alone that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you did not know any of the people? Had
No.
you talked to them earlier in the evening at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then this question's for the bartender. From the videos that I saw, there was a whole line of people that came out from the back. I don't know if there's a pool table back there or something, but are they regulars?
What do you mean upstairs?
Upstairs, where you were. I watched the video.
Oh, so yeah. So in the video, you saw when that like the young kid jumped over the crowd to throw a punch. Do you remember that?
I saw Mr. Phillip talking to a woman and then like a line of people coming from the back.
So that was
one
that.
after another.
That was that party, and there was a gentleman in there that's been in there 4 or 5 times. He comes every so often. It's more his nephew and niece come in the most, but he's the one that actually started the fight. I would say that not the one that instigated, but there's 2 quiet kids that come in, and they brought their family in to have a party. And so I really don't know them. I don't even know their names. I just know I recognize them. And they've come in, I wouldn't say often, but maybe once every couple of months. And they seem to always be calm and collective, but just this time was the party. Sorry?
Did you see anything before the punching that
No,
Was it
that the older
like-
gentleman, I would say looked like he was in his 50s. He came over and grabbed the victim's throat, like legit, like just
Yeah.
held him up like this. And like he was sort of backing away, and then his friend behind him threw a drink. I will say though that one of the guys that was there, I sort of had an incident with earlier. He was sort of being pushy about getting a drink waiting too long for a drink. And I
Okay.
told him to relax. He's the one that ended up pushing me over the victim when he was on the floor. In the video,
Okay.
you see somebody pushing me onto the victim. That one I had an incident with earlier, but it wasn't anything. He was just complaining that I was taking too long.
Okay. And how many staff were on the night? You and your mother, you were upstairs. Who else was
Yeah,
upstairs?
my mom and the DJ. And so
Okay.
the DJ didn't look like too much. He said he didn't really see anything going on except for, you know, the victim like going back and forth and dancing, and that was it. But he didn't see anything that could have instigated. But watching the video, that was the only thing that I could see possibly where like a kid maybe 24, 25 years old goes over to that older gentleman and he's sort of pointing at the direction of the victim. And then next thing I know, the whole crowd through the video, that whole group starts moving together towards the victim.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks for sending along the videos or
Yep.
cooperating with the video. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Have any of these people been in since?
No.
No.
Okay, that would have been my only question. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
None for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 8, LCTV Fort Point LLC, doing business as Lolita Cocina and Tequila Bar located at 253 Summer Street. Date of the incident, October 8th, 2022, patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Executive Secretary Green, members of the board, Leslie Delaney Hawkins with the law firm of Prince LaBelle Ty on behalf of the licensee. And with me is Mark Malatesta, one of the co-owners, as well as Ben Maroon, who is the manager who is on premise.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Jay Tully.
Officer Brian Fitzgerald.
Detective Kevin Magoon.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
I'll read it.
Officer Fitzgerald. Oh, good. Sorry.
Sorry, Brian. About
Proceed.
11:21 PM on Saturday, 10/8/22, Officer Fitzgerald Hamilton assigned to the Fox 102, responded to a radio call for assault and battery report at 253 Summer Street, Lolita. Upon arrival, officer spoke with the victim, later identified as Vincenzo Freone, who stated that he was assaulted inside Lolita restaurant. Mr. Freone stated he and his friend, later identified as Rashid Salam, were randomly attacked. Both Freone and Salam did not provide any suspect information nor reasoning for the unprovoked attack. Mr. Freone appeared to be suffering from an injury to his mouth, including his front teeth. Mr. Salam appeared to be suffering from an injury to his forehead with a minor swelling. EMS responded, arrived on scene. Both victims were evaluated. Mr. Salam declined to be evaluated on scene. Mr. Freone was transported to Tufts Medical Center for further evaluation. I was also called to the scene. When I arrived, I conducted a code 35. After further investigation and speaking with the officers, I issued a license premise citation number 044253.
Thank you very much. And we have a supplemental as well that was authored by Detective Magoon. Will you be reading that into record?
I don't have that in front of me, so Detective Magoon, I'm sure, has that.
Detective Magoon, I can read that into the record.
Great, thank you.
Area C6 detectives identified a suspect from 10/8/22 at Lolita's 253 Summer Street for assault and battery, dangerous weapon foot. Further investigation with the assistance of security camera video, credit card receipts, and victims Peony, and Salemi, identifying the suspect from a Mass State Police Mass Fusion Center photo lineup. The suspect was identified as Malen Boca, 9/29/92. Mr. Boca refused to be interviewed on the circumstances of the altercation. Boca was observed on the video approaching both victims, engaging in conversation before assaulting the victims. Peony, Salemi, and Mr. Boca.
Great,
That's it.
thank you. Thank you very much. Attorney Hawkins, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you very much. Sergeant Magoon, if I may, was the licensee cooperative with your investigation?
For the record, it's Detective Magoon, and yes, they were.
My apologies. Sergeant Tully was the licensee cooperative with your efforts?
Yes, they were.
And Officer Fitzgerald was the licensee cooperative with your efforts on the scene?
Yes, they were.
And according to the license premise inspection report, it was the licensee who called police, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. No further questions for the officers, detective and sergeant. If I may, I would like to introduce Ben Maroon. Ben, could you please state your full name and position?
Benjamin Maroon. I was the manager on duty that evening.
Thank you. And were you fully staffed on the night of the alleged incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you just briefly explain to the board what transpired that evening?
Sure. I was in the manager's office when I was informed that there was a fight that broke out at the bar area. When I got out to the bar area, our security staff had already broken it up and took the party of 5 outside and separated the group. So the party of 2, Mr. Freyon and the other guy, were there in the bathroom kind of washing their mouth and washing their face and whatnot. I got them both ice for their injuries, and I called the police and ambulance as well.
Thank you. And were these individuals known to you? Were they regulars?
No, I've never recognized any of the individuals.
And did the two parties appear to know each other?
No evidence of that.
And were there any incidents or altercations leading up to the fight that you observed?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And you cooperated with police, correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, we will submit video of the incident, which was also shared with the police department, which shows that this incident was sudden and there was nothing prior, so that the staff could have anticipated an incident. The licensee was fully staffed and security immediately intervened. The licensee called police and, as you heard today, cooperated with the police department upon arrival and as they continued their investigation. We respectfully submit and that the testimony and the video will show that this incident was not reasonably foreseeable and that the licensee took all appropriate actions, and ask that you find no violation. And we are happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Attorney Hawkins. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Thank you. I have no questions.
Commissioner Carmen or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions from me. Thank you.
None from me either. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement, and we will share video with commissioners when we receive it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 9, Can't Stop, Won't Stop LLC, doing business as Teddy's on the Hill, located at 9 Bowden Street. Date of the incident, November 14th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron, inside premise, resulting in bodily injury in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, members of the board. Andrew Upton for the licensee. With me should be owner, manager of record, Jake Nicholson, doorman on duty that night, Brendan Garrity, and bartender on duty that night, Jeff Hamill.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department? Do we have any members of the Boston Police Department who will be reading a report into the record or testifying for Teddy's on the Hill?
Officer Pizzozio is not here. Lieutenant Detective Troy.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you please identify yourself?
Yes, I'm Wyatt Doyle. I think I'm named as the victim in the police report.
Great, thank you very much, Mr.
And I'm
Doyle.
Jeremy Bell, and I was a witness to the assault.
And thank you, Mr. Bell, for being with us this morning as well. Can you, all those who are planning on testifying, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant Troy. If you could please read the.
In
recording.
addition, Mr. Green,
Excuse me?
in addition, Mr. Green, Detective Hernandez also wrote the supplemental report to this licensed premise. So reading from a report authored by Officer Joseph Pizzulio, it reads as follows: about 11:35 on Monday, November 14th, Officer Pizzulio and Officer Entwistle responded to a radio call for an assault and battery in progress at 106 Cambridge Street, Boston. That there's some CAD notations here, which is computer-aided dispatch, which states as follows. At 23:35, the caller is outside Teddy's on the Hills, states his friend was just punched in the face. The second CAD notation, computer-aided dispatch, is from 23:36. It says white male, older, black hair and beard, went back into the bar. And the third one notation on the CAD is Fred is bleeding from face, referred to EMS. The report continues. On arrival, officers were flagged down by the caller, Jeremy Bell, and victim Wyatt Doyle. Officers observed the victim to be profusely bleeding from his nose and have blood dripping down onto his coat. Officers spoke to the victim, who stated that they were at Teddy's on the Hill. Victim stated they were laughing when the male suspect, later identified as Timothy Naber, walked over from the other side of the bar. Victim stated that the suspect stated, "One of those women you disrespected is my wife." The victim stated the male then grabbed him and struck him with closed fists in the face. Victim stated that then he went outside with his friends and the suspect remained in the bar. Caller corroborated the story of the victim. Officers then went inside and spoke to the bartender, Jeremy Hamill. The bartender said that he observed the victim walk in with his friends. The bartender stated that shortly after he observed the suspect walk over and heard a crack. The bartender stated he separated both parties from further altercation. The bartender stated to Officer Entwistle that the suspect, Timothy Naber, was Timothy Naber. The bartender stated the suspect comes in often and lives in Beacon Hill. The victim declined to be seen by Boston EMS and walked to Mass General Hospital for further evaluation. Officers notified Sergeant Whiteman, which for a code 35 completed at a later date. Officers did not have their body-worn cameras due to leaving prior to the start of their shift. A photo of the victim's injuries was documented and attached to this report. That's the extent of the police report. There's an additional report from Detective Hernandez.
I can read that if you want, sir.
Which
I can read that, sir.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Have you been sworn in yet this morning?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Could you please raise your right hand?
No.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You may please proceed now.
Good morning. I'm going to reading from a police report, which I wrote on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit, responded to Teddy's on the Hill located at 9 Bowden Street to speak to staff regarding an assault and battery incident that had occurred on November 14th, 2022. Incident number 222-088-506. Detective spoke to the person in charge, Mr. Brian Ring, who confirmed that his staff had informed him of the incident. Mr. Ring informed detectives that the establishment did have video cameras and will be providing any video to investigators. As a result of the incident, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 059961 for assault and battery patron on patron inside premise, resulting in bodily injury. Mr. Ring signed for an accepted notice. That is all.
Thank you, Detective. Attorney Upton, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Attorney Green. Same question for both detectives. Was management and staff cooperative in the course of your investigation?
We just, for the license premise inspection, they were very cooperative. We went there.
By all appearances, they were very cooperative.
Okay, thank you. No more questions for the detectives. if I may, I have a few questions for Brendan Garrity, and then we will shift to some questions for Jeff Hamill, who apparently is identified as Jeremy Hamill, but I'm told he's correctly named Jeff. Brendan, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, can you, okay, so here we have Brendan, owner Jake Nicholson, and Jeff Hamill now out of the picture. Can you tell us about your experience as a doorman?
I've worked in bars for 21 years in a variety of capacities, including door staff and management.
All right, and you were on duty that night?
Correct.
Can you tell us briefly what you saw happen?
The gentleman involved walked down the stairs. I saw two of them were on there. One of the guys was showing them what the downstairs looked like. And apparently there was a comment made where he said there were beautiful women. One of the other people said where, and as identified, one of the people was Timothy Neighbors' fiance, and that's when he hit him.
So between the comment from the people coming down the stairs and this guy coming out of nowhere hitting him, how much time was that?
It happened really quickly. I'd say like 20 seconds, you know.
Okay, so after that happened, what did you do?
I separated them. I walked out with the victim and his group, was trying to figure out exactly what had happened. I was about to call the police, but one of the gentlemen in the group was already on it. I spoke with the victim and asked if he wanted an ambulance. He said he did not. And then I had one of the other bartenders grab me some napkins and stuff so we could try to, you know, render whatever aid I could.
So you didn't call the police because you saw the victim's friend already on the phone with police?
Correct.
Okay. All right, we believe that that characterizes what happened outside. What happened inside, I'd like to ask Jeff Hamill. Let me switch over to him. Jeff, you were on duty that night?
I was, yes.
Okay, and after you saw what happened, what did you do with the assailant, the alleged assailant?
So under my protocol, I've been in the industry for 21 years too. I exited the assailant out the back door to separate any further issues.
Okay, was the assailant someone you recognized?
It is somebody I recognize, yes.
He was a regular?
He's not a regular here. It's just the Beacon Hill person I knew who he was.
Okay, but you'd seen him in the bar before?
Yes.
All right, did he ever cause trouble before?
No.
You ever see him intoxicated?
No.
Harassing any staff or patrons?
No.
And this evening, how was he behaving?
Fine.
And your recollection, can you recall this far back as to how many drinks he had or what his tab was? I understand there's no contemporaneous POS record because he paid in cash.
Right. He had exactly what I get was they both had one Bud Light and a shot of whiskey.
Okay. And all bartenders are tips trained at your establishment?
Yes, they are.
Okay. That's all I have for the staff, Attorney Green.
Thank you, Attorney Upton. I'll ask Mr. Doyle if you have anything additional you would like to provide to the board for testimony.
Yep. As I remember, I was standing there. This guy walked up to me and grabbed me. He was acting very aggressive, so I tried to create some space from him. So I pushed him away. I turned around and went to walk out the door. I believe there's like a breezeway thing. So I exited a door, but wasn't fully outside yet. I then heard the door open behind me, began to turn around. I was then punched in the face. When I kind of looked up, my eyes were watering, so I didn't really see what happened. When I looked up, the person was gone. I kind of gathered my friends and went outside to call the police and wait.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. And finally, Mr. Bell, was there any additional testimony you would like for the board to consider?
No, to be honest, it happened so quickly. I virtually didn't see it coming. It was unprovoked and it was less than 20 seconds, I can tell you that.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for being here this morning. I will turn to the board to see if there are any questions, beginning with Chairwoman Joyce.
One question for the victim. Had you interacted with this suspect at all while you were inside the bar?
No.
Okay. And for the staff, will you be forwarding the video?
Fortunately, our video expires after 48 hours.
Okay.
So
I thought, okay.
we don't have it on file.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
None for me. No, thank you.
I have a question. Did they not think of taking a copy of that video? They know that the fight happened. Why would they let that expire? Surely they should have kept a record of that. That's what videos are for.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. It is for the board to ask questions at this
Okay,
hearing.
I'm sorry.
But thank you.
Actually-
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
I was actually going to make that comment, just saying going forward, if there is any incident, make sure that you pull the video.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was something that we had just, again, being a new establishment, this is the video system had just been put in. So it's something that moving forward, we definitely will be, if there is an incident reported, that we will make sure that we keep it in file for future use.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Calling item number 10, Food House Inc. doing business as Friendship BBQ Alston, located at 103 Brighton Ave in Alston, dated the incident November 14th, 2022. Blocked fire exit in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.06A, and premise providing soju, distilled spirits, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, members of the board. Carolyn Conway, 350 West Broadway, on behalf of the licensee. And I have with me today Mr. Solim Ning, who is the owner and along with his wife and manager of the licensee.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you very much. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. You may please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. Again, I'll be reading from a police report, which I wrote on Monday, November 14th, 2022, signed Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, signed to the BPD licensed premise unit, conducted licensed premise inspection of the Friendship Barbecue Restaurant located at 103 Brighton Ave in Boston. Upon reviewing the licenses, certificates, and permits of the establishment, detectives observed there was no City of Boston entertainment license posted, no current Boston Fire place of assembly posted. 9/30/22 was when we saw, and the premise was providing television and music entertainment. Detectives then made note that the establishment common vicular license was limited to beer and wine. While walking through the bar area, detectives observed multiple flavors of soju, distilled alcoholic beverage. Detectives then walked through the restaurant to make sure the fire exits were unobstructed. They observed a fire exit blocked by tables and chairs. Detectives took photographs of the blocked fire exits and the distilled spirits. Detective brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Stephen Wu. Mr. Wu was unable to provide detectives with the current licenses or permit. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice 059959 for no City of Boston entertainment license, no current BFD place of assembly permit posted, possessing distilled spirits on premise not authorized on the common victuals license, and blocked fire emergency exit. Mr. Wu signed for and accepted the notice, and the pictures on there are provided, attached photocopies are provided into the report.
Thank you very much. Attorney Conway, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, if I may. We have provided the board yesterday with a picture of the fire exit, which has now been cleared of that. And we've now gone through everything with all the employees to make sure that that table is not returned. to where it was and to make sure that that fire exit is free at all times. Just to make sure that we're complete, we also gave you a copy of the current entertainment license and a copy of the current place of assembly permit. And they have now been posted in a conspicuous place, just to make sure, but they were up to date at the time. Now, with respect to the soju, apparently soju comes in so many flavors, some of which are wine-based, some of which are distilled spirits-based. Mr. Ng was basically relying upon the liquor distributor to know, in accordance with his license, what flavors he could purchase. We now realize that that was a mistake and that it is incumbent upon the licensee to make sure. I will let the board know that since this incident, we have gone through the neighborhood process with respect to getting a beer, wine, and cordial change of category for the licensee. We've received the neighborhood approval and support. We are currently expected to be before the board on February 15th for a change of category in the license. We do apologize. As the police report said, there are many, many flavors of this soju. Right now, we have taken everything that is distilled spirit. We have taken off our shelves, and we only have wine-based products at this point.
Thank you, Attorney Conway. I'll turn to the board to see if there are any questions for the licensee, starting with Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Curran. Do you have any questions?
Attorney Conway, you got this soju, the premises got this soju through their distributor?
Yes.
Okay, and the distributor didn't flag it as, because they would know that they're beer and wine, correct?
Right, and we've gone back to the distributor. I actually asked the distributor to come and testify today to say that, and they declined. But, because we, and I don't know how naive it, but we thought that there was the backstop, that the distributor would not sell anything, because the first thing that when you get a liquor license is that you have to give the distributor a copy of the license. That they would act, as I said, as a backstop and not sell anything that they're not allowed to sell to that license. But we now have learned that we cannot rely on them, and that we are going to have to make our own independent review of what we're purchasing. But as I said, the soju just has so many flavors that we were going by flavor rather than the alcohol. And we do apologize to the board. We realize it now, and we will not rely on the distributors in the future.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Thank
very
you. We
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you. The board will take this under advisement as well. These are all of the items before the board today that will adjourn this morning's hearing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.